What if everything you thought was solid and real about yourself, about the world, just wasn't? What if the very way you experience reality is based on a fundamental misunderstanding? I mean, that's a huge question, right? But it's one that people have been wrestling with for thousands of years. So let's really get into it.
Seriously, just for a second, think about it. Right now, what makes up you? Your body? Your feelings? Your thoughts? Most of us just go through our day assuming there's this solid, stable me at the center of everything. But what if that very assumption is the source of all our confusion and maybe even our suffering? Well, we're going to dive into a key text from the Perfection of Wisdom tradition in Buddhism. And here's the thing, it doesn't just ask the question, it gives a surprisingly direct, almost clinical analysis of our experience, and it lays out a path to seeing reality in a completely new light. This is less about blind faith and much more about a deep, honest investigation. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, the text first breaks down what we even mean by experience. It takes it apart piece by piece. You can think of this part as the initial diagnosis, like what are the raw materials that make up any single moment?
According to this analysis, everything, and I mean everything you experience, falls into one of these five buckets. So you have form, that's the physical world, the chair you're on. Sensation, feelings of pleasure or pain. Perception, that's how you recognize things, like a friend's face. Mental formations, these are your thoughts, your intentions, your impulses. And finally, consciousness, the basic awareness of it all. The key point here is that we tend to grab these five things, bundle them together, and call that bundle me. We mistake the ingredients for solid, unchanging self. All right, so we've got our five building blocks, but the analysis doesn't stop there. This is where it gets really interesting. The text then takes those five aggregates, form, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness, and it looks at them through this incredibly powerful lens. This is the core insight. It says that every one of those building blocks, and really everything in existence, can be understood through three different layers of reality, or natures. First up, there's the provisional nature. This is pretty much reality as we normally see it. A chair is a chair, happiness is happiness. It's the world of labels, the functional, conventional way we get by. It's not that this view is wrong, it's just the surface layer. It's a provisional name we give to a temporary collection of causes and parts. But then, when we look a little deeper, we find the non-nature. And this is the truly radical part. The text argues that none of those things, not the chair, not your thoughts, not your feelings, has some fixed, independent core. They're all just temporary gatherings of causes and conditions that are constantly changing. They have no solid thingness on their own. This is often translated as emptiness, but it's crucial to understand it doesn't mean nothingness. It just means empty of a separate permanent self. And then, when you can see both of these at the exact same time, when you see how things appear provisionally, but you also understand that they're ultimately empty of any separate essence, that's when you perceive the real nature. It's not some other mystical dimension. It's just the unified, complete truth of reality. Now, obviously, getting your head around this isn't exactly easy. Our minds have all these deep habits and patterns. And what's so great is that the sutras is super practical about this. It actually calls out the common mental traps, the wrong turns we all make, that stop us from seeing things clearly. So let's have a look at them. You know what's wild is just how modern these traps feel. You've got the classic ego trap, this is me, this is mine. Then you have these big philosophical dead ends, like blaming everything on an external creator or just saying it's all random chance. It specifically warns against that common mistake of thinking emptiness means nothingness. And get this, it even warns against clinging to the spiritual concepts themselves, turning this whole wisdom thing into just another rigid belief system. And this quote right here just shows how seriously the text takes these mistakes. It calls people who hold these views the outermost of the outer. It's such a powerful image, right? It's basically saying that these ways of thinking put you at the absolute furthest point from understanding reality as it actually is. It's a pretty stark warning. So, if that's the diagnosis and those are the warnings, what's the prescription? What do we actually do? Well, the entire path, the whole practice, can be summed up in two powerful words: non-attachment. The text draws a really clear line in the sand here. On one side, when we generate attachment, when we grasp onto those five aggregates as me and mine, our mind is clouded, obscured. We're bound to this cycle of suffering and conflict. But on the other side, when we see their true nature and we don't generate that attachment, the mind becomes illuminated. It's clear, it's free, it's at peace. The choice and the results of that choice are laid out so directly. But listen, this isn't a path of just becoming some cold, detached observer who withdraws from the world. Absolutely not. The text makes it clear that this kind of seeing, this non-attachment, naturally gives rise to all these positive, engaged qualities. It's not transforming your whole way of being in the world. Let's see what that actually looks like. This wisdom literally blossoms into are called the 6 perfections. These are the active qualities of an awakened mind. And notice how they cover the whole spectrum of a good life, right? You've got generosity, ethical discipline, deep patience, joyful diligence, focused meditation, and of course, the wisdom that underpins all of it. This is the practical, lived, day-to-day expression of seeing reality clearly. So we kind of end up right back where we started, but now with a totally different perspective. The text deconstructs our idea of a fixed self, not to leave us with nothing, but to open us up to a more dynamic, more interconnected, and ultimately a much freer way of being. So it leaves us with this huge question to explore for ourselves. If my experience isn't some solid, static thing, but a fluid, dynamic process, then what becomes possible?